There's Tony. Hey. All right. Hello, ABL and fans of the ABL. This is This Week in Armchair Baseball, episode 3, season 3, wrapping up scoring week 3. How do you like that? With Cal and Tyler back again. Cal, tell us a little bit about how your week went, man. I want to give it to you first off because the Angels continue to impress me. How did you feel about week 3?
There's a lot of ups and downs, to be honest with you. I came out the gate red hot. I think I put up 100 points in a very short amount of time. And a certain incident happened with someone who will not be named on this podcast. So I missed out on some points, but there was a lull in the middle of my week where just no one was doing anything. I had no offense. I don't have a lot of starters on my team. It's pretty evident to see that. So I had no pitching help. You only get the 7 starts, but I was still looking at 6 for the whole week. Really nervous because all my opponents were catching up to me and surpassing me. Tyler definitely went way past me, and I already wrote him off. So I was just like, okay, if I can catch Adam and I can beat Chris, I'll be happy. But going into Sunday, I had 3 starters. I posted like a joke LeBron meme showing that it's go time. We're in the final countdown, and for some reason, like the guys that I had pitched at like unbelievable levels. Vince Velasquez, I don't know what got into him, but these last 2 outings have been insane. I don't know what happened
Ride that wave,
or what switches.
right.
Yeah, I don't know what switches flipped, but I will take it. It's crazy stuff. DeGrom did his normal DeGrom stuff, and then Erod came out and he pretty much expanded on what he did last time out and, pitched his butt off and still did not get the win. Like I think he pitched a combined probably 16 innings, something like that. And he got 2 runs of run support in that entire span. And he gave up no runs. So it's like, what do you want him to do? Yeah, I feel bad for him in that sense, but he helped me pull out a 3-0 week. I didn't know it was possible for me to do that, but yeah. It was a great week.
And still crushed, as you can see here, still crushed the pitching for the week. Finished number 1 in pitching by a pretty significant margin, and that was missing a pretty good Erod start. So we could tack on. I didn't look at what he scored in that
32
game,
points. 32 points.
Another 32 points. So, I mean, you would have absolutely blown, who was it, the Royals. I mean, you already did kind of blow them out of the water, but yeah, we can add another 30 points onto that. Just what a week pitching for the Angels, man. Leaning into the staff that I personally didn't have a ton of faith in. I remember the AL West pod. I wasn't loving the Angels or the pitching especially, but when I looked today, I said, "Holy shit, man!" He actually, I expected to see maybe, maybe top 10, middle of the pack, and that 32 would have vaulted you into the top 5 of pitching or whatever. But no, you still crushed pitching anyway, and that's missing what would have been probably the best start on a lot of staffs for the week, a 30+ point start. So yeah, man, hat tip, pat yourself on the back, ride that Vince Velasquez wave while you can. I have Velasquez I picked him up as a streamer in a points league where I was ahead, but the guy I was facing was starting 3 guys, and Velasquez is about the only option out there, and it's got some funky scoring, and he put up like a 66 points game. Jeez. And yeah, I was hoping to just not get negatives, at that point.
Yeah.
Erod in the RTFBC that I did, Erod went for $69 on the Sunday fab, and that's $1,000 budget. So pretty hefty. I had put 15 on him, thinking maybe, but yeah, I got crushed by that. So the Erod hype is real now after this week. Tyler, how was your week 3, man?
Good as well. Certainly not as good as Cal's. It was close to being as good as Cal's, but unfortunately, one of us wasn't going to have the perfect week. So, which obviously pretty cool and ironic that we got to play each other, and then we're on the pod. So,
yeah,
I think it was fine. I still have people who are either underperforming or are not really playing in the roles that I thought they'd be playing in or whatever it might be. But still overall, team's performing well. Sticks is still injured, so I'm still waiting for him to come back. It's obviously been losing him and Hoskins this year has really put a damper on things. But the fact that I'm, top 10 with where I'm at, and I'm still ahead of Cleveland in the standings, still only behind Brendan by a game. I feel pretty good about where things are at.
Yeah, you have really yet to. I feel like it's been 2.5, 3 years since the Twins have had a really bad week. I know you have, but it just the Twins are. The ABL Twins are remarkably consistent. One of the more consistent teams. Like you kind of know where they're going to be. They can have that week where they kind of kick the shit out of everybody and make you go, whoa. But typically it's just like, oh, the Twins went 2-1 again, or the Twins went 3-0 again, kind of yawn, they're just kind of have been there.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah. It's not a bad place to be, really, because you have those blow up weeks at the right time, and all of a sudden, you're in the playoffs and doing really well, and it's all about that momentum, though. Got to keep
100%. Yeah. And I'll say too. I mean, if to Cal's point about him talking about feeling really good about where he's at, I'd feel good too if Cutter Crawford was averaging 11 points a game, Vince Velasquez was averaging 14.5. DeGrom at 20, Erod at 16. Like, I'd feel pretty dang good. Matt Manning even at 12.5. Like, my goodness, I'd feel like I have the best pitching staff in the league if those guys.
Those names you just rattled off is exactly the reason why I said I wasn't that impressed with the Angels staff, and listening to those names, I'm still not.
But the best part is
you can't deny it.
Yeah, he's still winning. Right. Like that's the craziest part. And he's doing it through pitching right now. Like imagine if, the actual like good players on his team play well, I get week to week. Is it like, it'll be definitely a team to contend with in the playoffs, which is cool. It's really cool to see.
I mean, the Angels were a bottom 5 hitting team this week.
It's crazy.
And like really on the back of the bench still had a very good week. Yeah. That could be a scary combo if you get the bats going for a week when those are now, will the bats get going in a week where Vince Velasquez is
Vince Velasquez?
You don't need him to be 7 innings, 10 strikeouts, every time out to get your value out of him. That's icing on the cake. But if you could just get those bats to be middle of the pack, you would have crushed the league this week. So.
Well, he's got Tim Anderson on the IR, Grichuk on the IR. I mean,
he's getting ready to come back. Grichuk getting ready to come back.
Yep.
And should settle right into the middle of that Rocky lineup. Middle, maybe the back of the middle, but still going to be playing in Coors. Still has big time power. Yeah. Definitely some things to look forward to if you are an ABL Angels fan, which.
Yeah, some of us are. I will say that I did have a very in-depth strategy when it came to building a pitching staff, and it was just get a bunch of guys who are breathing and see if it works. And so far, they're all still doing that. They're all breathing. They're all
still breathing.
So it's working out pretty nicely so far. So it's unbeatable.
I'm holding my breath at the moment because I've actually got Matt Boyd going against Colin Ray. I have no idea what's happening in that game, but. I know they are facing each other, so I'm kind of hoping after this is over, it's like nothing in the 8th, and they were both just brilliant. But I kind of don't really have a lot of faith that that's going to be the case. But hey, that's what I'm leaning on right now. I'm a team that would be like, wow, Vince Velasquez, that'd be a really nice arm to have right now. But never a guy I would have thought about trying to acquire in any way, shape, or form before this. I mean, I remember the guy coming up with the Astros and looked promising, and then he was part of a big trade. Who was it that the Phillies sent to the Astros in the Vince Velasquez trade? Man, am I crazy? I don't think I'm crazy. I think they sent him to the Phillies for.
I'll look it up.
I will say I had Velasquez last year. All last year, he was a $1 starter He played with the White Sox, I believe it was all last year. Just start after start, disappointment. I don't even know how he wasn't optioned, probably because he's service time or DFA'd something. It's a miracle he was still on a roster end of the year. And I was like, I saw he was with Pirates. They don't have a lot of options at the moment. I mean, they have guys coming up, but right away they didn't have many options. Like, okay, I'll keep him for $3. We'll get some innings out of him.
All right,
and
so they it was to Houston. Houston got closer Ken Giles and prospect Jonathan Arouse, I think. Those two went to the Astros in exchange for Vince Velasquez, Mark Apple, Thomas Eshelman, Harold Arouse, and Brett Oberholzer.
Okay, so it was the Mark Appel deal, I guess, was supposed to be and I guess Ken Giles was the name at the time, but yeah, I think Appel was probably the biggest potential name in that deal, and Ken Giles has went on to, well, he had a year or two, and he's been like hurt ever since. But
he's just a psycho,
typical reliever in MLB.
Yeah.
He went from being called 100 Miles Giles to, I mean, he's thrown like 5 innings in the last 3 years. Like, it's just one of those guys that I think just threw too hard for his own good or something. And kind of. But yeah, Ken Giles, Mark Appel, Vince Velasquez, all part of that deal, and then some names that don't ring a bell to me at all. But yeah, he had the potential at one point, but that was when was that, Tyler? Do you recall? Do you have it in front of you? That was some years ago.
Yeah, I don't. Hold on. The article I found was from 2021, but I don't know when the actual trade was.
Yeah, I feel like that was earlier than that.
2015.
Oh yeah, okay, jeez. So yeah, it's been a little bit since Vince Velasquez had that potential, but hey, he reached it for the ABL Angels of all teams, and the Pittsburgh Pirates, who, we're not talking about real baseball here, but holy Jesus, I mean, how fun to be, even on the outside looking in at like Pirate fans. It's just fun to see them go on a little bit of a run. Even if it's just early in the season, even if a lot of it might be somewhat unsustainable, it's fun to see the Pirates back in the mix. All right. Well, we didn't have a ton of, there weren't really many big trades. The Rangers made a couple of. They acquired Torkelson and then sent him away a few days later. That was really kind of the big trade action. I don't know if that's worth spending a ton of time on. I don't recall a ton of like major injuries. Maybe you guys can help me out there, but anything notable for either one of you for week 3 before we get into the power rankings?
Go ahead, Cal.
Okay, does Jordan count? Because that was devastation for me when I heard that he might spend time on the IL with a neck issue. I dropped to my knees when I heard that, just sobbing. I was like, not what I needed.
That could be bad. Yeah, that's
after
that could be bad.
After the high that I had all week to hear that news, it's like I got Timmy in the IL too. Mookie's. I don't know. Maybe Mookie will be my saving grace, but yeah, I'm gonna be a little bit selfish and say that Jordan news sucked.
These 30-team leagues, man, just having somebody go down is just extra devastating, especially when it's like a superstar like that. Just having these guys go down, it just is it's an absolute kick in the gut, because there's little to no chance of replacing the kind of production that these guys are going to give you. Yeah, sometimes you can get lucky and pull a Padres. Who's the Padres? Oviedo. He's the new gem that the Padres somehow dug up out of obscurity, out of nowhere, and is following in that Newt Barr, Taylor Ward footsteps for the Padres. But most of us are not going to be able to do that, and especially with Jordan, somebody like that. That's just, the highs and the lows of a 30-team fantasy baseball league.
Yeah,
encompassed in just a couple days.
Yeah, I don't think go ahead.
Poor Tyler.
I was just going to say, the Dodgers, I had written down, and then I kind of overlooked it. Dodgers go 2-0 in the division. They're the only team this week to go 2-0 within the division. And I wrote poor Brewers. I'm not 100% sure why I put that. They must have had a good week, but but had a bad
if
week.
you click on points scored this year, so you just go year to date and points scored. So it's actually funny if you look. So the top 8 teams are the top 8 teams record wise, but then the next 3 teams are actually the Nationals, who are 19th, Oakland, who's 20th, and the Brewers, who are 16th, because they're 3-6, 3-6, and 4-5 respectively. All 3 of those teams have scored more points than me, but I'm 7-2. So,
hey, take it where you can get it.
Yeah, 100%. Well, and what's funny, we'll get to it when we look at the power rankings and stuff. But all 3 of those teams, even though again record wise they're below me, they're ranked above me in the power rankings right now for that reason.
Wow. Yeah, that had to be factoring into why I said poor Brewers.
Could be. I think the only thing I was going to mention, given that he's in the chat too, was Tony making the first technical dump proclamation of the year. I guess that's technically noteworthy, given that I'm not sure how many, of those will come, early this year. I'm not sure how some of the teams at the bottom of the standings are feeling, but speaking as someone in the top half of the standings, and I don't know if Cal maybe feels the same way, but I certainly, with my injuries, I would certainly be itching to at least entertain some trades. I'm not necessarily looking to take on, a ton of stuff yet, because I'm still feeling out my team. I still have some injuries coming back, but I know at least myself in my position, certainly looking to start entertaining some sort of trades coming up soon.
I just made one, so I think that kind of lets you know where I'm at.
Did you seriously?
Yeah, I did. I got from Tony. I got I did a deal with Tony.
Oh, yeah, you did.
Yeah.
What did you?
I gave him.
Margot, nice.
Yeah, I got Margot for Hicks and Choi.
Okay.
So yeah, I'll take that. It's an everyday bat, and if Jordan's out, I can slot Soler in left, put Margot in center, and Betts can stay in right, and I have a full outfield. I think the Jordan injury might not be that. That's just me wishful thinking, but it might not be that serious. Maybe it doesn't need to be on the IL for 10 days.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's something I needed right away, and so I think it'll help me right away. But
I love him as a player just because of the role he has. With Tampa, he doesn't obviously play full seasons for them, but he plays a lot, and he plays in multiple positions, like you said. I'm pretty sure I had him for like season 1 and part of season 2 before I think I traded him to Tony. Potentially, I can't remember. Maybe Tony got him in the auction this year. I can't.
He's bounced around a bit, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I've always liked him as a player. I felt like he's consistent. You're gonna usually get some points out of him. And obviously, playing for Tampa this year helps.
Yeah, anybody put up points in that.
A lot as well.
So
and I think on Tony's side too, who knows if Hicks will be able to start pitching a little better. Kind of SPRP, which is nice, right? But kind of sucks that he hasn't, I don't think, pitched to his potential. That you probably have to ask all the Cardinals fans in our
you got 2 of them right here. So
yeah, has not pitched to his. I mean, I don't know what his potential. He's right now. He's just a guy that throws hard. Yeah, he's not a pitcher. He's a thrower, and he kind of always has been. Like some of his stuff looks like it. Not looks like it does have some movement on it, but he has no idea how much it's gonna. He just has no command. It seems, let alone control, but no command. And he's just never really. We had dreams of like an Anthony Reyes. What was the Reyes? Was it Anthony Reyes? No,
Alex Reyes.
Anthony
Reyes. Anthony Reyes with the
Anthony Reyes is from like a while ago. Anthony Reyes is a while ago. Yeah. We had like illusions of a potential Hicks and Reyes like back into the bullpen. Both of those guys.
So funny that was exciting.
But yeah,
right. Like, dude, we're gonna have the best bullpen in the league.
Yeah, and now Reyes just went on the minor league IL for where is he at? The Dodgers, I think maybe.
Yeah,
he's somewhere. He just went.
Probably moved there too.
Yeah, they can deal with that bullshit now because that's just. Man, what a disappointment! You talk about minor league disappointments for the Cardinals. Yuck. I wanted to mention the thing that freaks me out about Jordan. I do have him in a couple other leagues. Is when they say they sent him back to Houston. You know,
What?
that is what, like, okay, he's traveling separate from the team or whatever. Like it's bad enough that we feel like we need to tell you to go by yourself. Like the trainers here can't do anything about it. So that freaks me out a little bit. And, you know, again, maybe it's just a stinger. Maybe he slept wrong. You know, maybe the pillow on the airplane, you know, he's had his neck at a bad angle, whatever it is. But
put him in first class or something. I don't know. Let him lie down. It's Jordan Alvarez. Figure it out.
Yeah, imagine these guys are all crunched up like old
Yeah.
WWF wrestlers in the 80s going to Japan where like none of them can move. Yeah, probably not. But
I just saw that Ric Flair on Joe Rogan when you brought to Japan, the wrestlers going to Japan. He just talked about that, and it's hilarious. You brought that up out of nowhere. But yeah.
Yeah, I did not see that. That was just like interesting.
Wild
Poor
times in
Jordan.
Japan.
Yeah, let's not do that. Let's not talk about how bad Jordan could be. Let's talk about some power rankings. How about that?
Well,
Yeah,
I was gonna say, Alan, real quick. Tony actually put a really
sure.
good question into the chat. I thought he said, "Who's going to be the last team to win a game?" We can maybe use that to transition to our power rankings.
Well, yeah, we'll do that because I also kind of had that for, you know, spoiler. I had that for a Believe It or Not. The Believe It or Not was, believe it or not, every team will win at least one game this year.
Interesting.
And I thought that might be interesting to kick around a little bit. So
let's save it then.
Yeah, let's save that, Tony. Damn it, let's save that, and we'll go to the power rankings. And Tyler, I'm gonna go ahead and let you break it down here a little bit.
Sure. Yeah. So it's been kind of cool. I tried. It's hard going back versions of the Google sheet to try and track exactly like when changes were made and kind of what happened and stuff. But I was trying to go back because I remember week 2 last year. There's always a ton of change because we have a long week in week 1, a shorter week in week 2. So a lot of things usually change. But in week 3, I felt like there's like almost every team again adjusted spots in some way, shape, or form. And so I was trying to look back to see if there was, you know, any significant reason for that, or if it was the same last year. And there wasn't as much change last year in week 3. There was a little bit, and kind of as the season goes on, right, things don't change necessarily as much as teams get solidified. Yeah. But I just think it's cool. It's something that, while I know is not anywhere near perfect, I'm super proud of to be able to have put something like this together just for a fantasy league that I enjoy. So I think it's been really cool to see. David, I mean, I got help from Josh early on too. I always like to thank Josh and David for the help they've given me in helping set this up and kind of run the stats every week. So shout out to those guys. But yeah, so this week, I think the biggest notes I would say outside of, kind of the drops and stuff is that Jake D-backs in the number 1 slot, first time ever. And I couldn't look back at every single sheet, but I believe this is the first time that Pittsburgh, the Dodgers, or the Cardinals have not been in that number 1 spot. I think this is the first week since I started doing power rankings that one of those 3 teams has not been in the top.
That's disgusting, but also, really cool that it finally happened.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. And I think it goes to show, right, that we're like year 3 now. Like it's gonna be really cool to see how like teams, it will start to turn over. Like things will change. Duke is not going to be up there. Well, maybe he will be up near the top forever, but he's at least not going to be number 1 forever. Right. So I thought that was really cool. And then I think the biggest thing for me too still is where teams are in this, correlating to where they are in the standings. So like the Nationals, who I just said, who are like literally 3 and 6. Technically, they're 19th in the league. They're number 5 in my power rankings, which I think is cool to see because it just shows like they've played some decent teams and they're also scoring at a decent rate. I also think right now, earlier on in the season, my projection modifier, so kind of how teams are projected to play, so to speak, that weighs in as well. So they're projected pretty well, which, given their team makeup, they should be projected to do pretty well. So I think that's playing a part in it as well, even though they are 3 and 6. But yeah, they're up there. Brewers are in the top 10. Oakland, I mentioned before, is in the top 10. And then teams like myself, who record-wise are in the top 10 but are outside of it. I have myself. Cardinals are in there. And Cleveland, I know I brought up Mark last week as well, but Mark dropped 4 spots this week. Kind of continuing to, I think we all had lofty expectations for him and his team this year. and I think they have severely underperformed so far. And I think if Mark was, being realistic, he would probably say the same thing. Even though I'm sure he'll probably flame me for that. But yeah, it's just been really interesting to see. And then the last thing I always like to look at is divisions and where divisions are at. So if you look at the NL West, which is ridiculous right now, between Arizona, San Francisco, and the Dodgers, you have 3 of the top 4 teams right now in the power rankings sitting out there, which the NL West has not been a division we've talked about very much in terms of like top end teams. So I wanted to shout out the NL West too, because they're sitting pretty right now in terms of the rankings there. And I know, Alan, that probably sucks to potentially hear for you, but at the same time, your division mates are definitely kicking some ass this year so far.
That's actually another. The NL West is another. Believe it or not. So yeah, this is like we're on the same wavelength here. Yeah. I thought it was fairly interesting to see that the biggest mover overall was the Mariners jumping up 5 spots. Yeah, that's kind of, I didn't really pay attention much to the week that the Mariners had. And my first time looking at the rankings was right before we went live here, so I wasn't able to look at them and then make notes about them, but Mariners, the biggest mover up. It was Cleveland, right? That was the biggest mover down at 4 spots. Yeah.
There were 4, and then there were a bunch of like 4 teams that went 3 spots down. But I always like to mention too, like the performance of a team is only one indicator, right? Within these power rankings. Even though it doesn't necessarily play a factor as much about like who you play, it kind of also does, because if you're playing an easier schedule, then there's a better chance you're going to make the playoffs, right? Versus a harder schedule. And so if you look at like Seattle this year or this past week, they played teams that averaged about 264 points, which is a decent week. And then they also scored a decent amount. Therefore, if you look at all the teams under them, they had either more points scored or they averaged more points against. So that in and of itself is going to bring their score up, and it's going to bring others down. So I was
a good example of that would even be my Rockies. I went 1-2, but moved up 3 spots in the rankings because I scored nearly 300 points and lost to the Astros and the Jays, a couple of good teams that also clearly scored quite a few points. So you can have a bad week and still move up a few spots in power rankings. I just did it. So it's not just about what you do. That's why they're so good. It's literally a living, breathing document, almost like the Constitution, in an odd way. Like it's this thing that's just going to keep morphing and keeping the same shape, but having different little appendages sticking out of it, like somebody else finally in the number 1 spot for. It's like having a college basketball, or it's like having Alabama, finally not being number 1 or something for X amount of way. It's like, very, very odd. I guess I hadn't paid that much attention, but it makes sense. I know I've seen the Pirates and Dodgers and those guys up there a lot. It's nice to see the Jays bump up 4 spots.
I was going to talk about that. Yeah, I was going to bring that up. Because
that's very cool.
He was 17th last year, and he's kind of making he flipped that team over multiple times throughout the offseason. A lot of trades. Even before the season was about to start, he was still making deals. So it's pretty cool to see that they're actually paying off, and he constructed a heck of a team so far.
Was it the Jays that traded? Was it the Jays that Sam traded Torque to? Was it Blue Jay Gary that got Torque?
Yeah.
Maybe my computer's faster.
Yeah, Sam traded with the Reds for Torque and then sent him to the Jays like 3 or 4 days later. Freaking Sam, man. This guy doesn't know what he wants.
All about it.
No, I feel that's funny you mentioned that, Cal, because I did want to bring up that like Gary this is Blue Jay Gary, not Yankee Gary. Yankee Gary's just quiet all the way around. He's quiet on the Discord and he doesn't make a lot of trades. Blue Jay Gary is somewhat quiet on the Discord, makes actually a lot of trades. Like you may not realize how many trades the Jays have made until you sit and look at it. Like since since Gary has taken that team over. Guy is always working. He is
Yep.
always working, and he raked me over the coals. And when I say that, I mean it, Sam. He got me on Kellenick. I had gave up on Kellenick. I knew Gary was a fan. He had approached me about him before, and maybe Drew Gilbert for me ends up being something really nice, but I'd much rather have Kellenick on my team right now and his 6 or 7 homers. So congrats to Gary. He also got him from me in ABL 4 for not much more than what I did for. I was over him. I was over Kellenick, and then he exploded and has really looked really nice since. So
Yep.
hat tip to Gary on that one. He got me on that deal. We'll see how the Torque deal goes for him. He's kind of got this thing about him where he has faith. He likes Captain Jack too. I think he's got faith in Flaherty still. So Gary likes his guys, and he puts his money where his mouth is, man. He trades for the guys he likes, and good for him when they work out. Hopefully Torque can be. I'm not a huge Torque fan, just personally. I don't care about the Tigers or anything. I would like to see him do well, but I don't know if he's gonna ever be worth what he's being paid right now in the ABL, at least. It'd be nice to see. I like the Jays. I like Gary, so it'd be cool to see both Kellenick and Torkelson put together a year that we that we thought they could, and do it on the same ABL team. That'd be kind of neat. After they both have bounced around so much. Any other notable power ranking stuff? Did we?
The only other thing I wanted to mention that I thought was interesting, because I don't know that everyone scrolls all the way to the right to see all the info over there, but my projection modifier that I use, I think it's interesting to look at, because if you look at the top 4 teams, all 4 of them have the highest projection modifier possible right now, because they're grouped into groups of 5 essentially. So top 5 projected teams get a 1. Next, you lose basically 0.05 of a percentage point, and so on and so forth, down to I think 0.85 is the lower, 0.75 is the lowest right now. And so so everyone pretty much at the top is a 1 right now, outside of Cleveland, who's sitting at 14 right now. And I think Tony mentioned it as well. He's maybe got some injuries and stuff, but for the most part, projections are holding pretty steady. There's not really outside of Mark kind of dropping. You could argue potentially St. Louis at 13. They're at a 0.8, so the second lowest modifier. You could maybe argue they're overperforming projections in a sense, but outside of that, it looks like everyone's kind of fitting the mold so far, which I thought was kind of interesting.
It is, yeah. They're fleshing out and becoming maybe a little bit more predictive of what we could see going forward.
Yep.
Yeah, I like that. Just in the league as a whole, I think is becoming a little bit more unpredictable. We're seeing more parity in the league. At least we think we had. And then Sam, I think when we yacked about it last time, Sam ran some numbers and said, "Hey, yeah, it actually is. It is bearing out that the numbers are showing more parity." So, we'll see if that continues. And I don't know. I hope to find myself out of the red at some point this year, but that's kind of, I kind of am more comfortable swimming in those waters anyway. So maybe we'll just hang with my homies down in the cellar. I'm a Midwest kid. I grew up. My bedroom was always in the basement. Our house always had basements. tornado stuff. So I always had basement. I'm just comfortable down there. The dank, dark, smelly basement. All right. How about some Believe It or Not? I told you guys, all I told you was that I was going to do some Believe It or Nots. I didn't tell you what any of them were. So I just said, be prepared, but then I didn't actually tell you what to be prepared for. So this is just going to be
love it.
Freewheeling. And so the first one, Tony was talking to me about this the other night, and I'm the one that put it into this form for the pod, but the first Believe It or Not will be, believe it or not, the point threshold that the EC set, the minimum point threshold for teams to not lose that $10 in cap space the next year is too high. Is that point threshold too high? It comes out to about 150 points a week. Is that too high? Is that asking too much of teams that are rebuilding. True or false? Believe it or not, Cal, start us off.
I was just say, Cal, you go, because I'm
as a
member of the EC. I'll let you go first.
Yeah.
As a former garbage team, I will also speak on behalf of many garbage teams. So that jury's still out. But anyways, so I thought it was 175. But
It is.
Tony
Tony
said
just
it.
said
Okay.
it is.
So
Yeah.
I thought 150 per week would probably be a little more reasonable, but that 25 points doesn't sound like it's a lot, but it is over the course of a week.
It is.
Especially for, lower grade teams that have a hard time. It's a grind just to get a couple points out of your guys, because really you're crossing your fingers that they don't just get DFA'd. That's really you hope to wake up and not see blank got option to AAA.
Taylor Motter.
Exactly. Yeah, Taylor Motter, perfect example. So I get what it's trying to do. I do think over a period of time it will probably work. I feel like it's a combination of 175 is probably too high of a threshold, but also $10 is not enough to incentivize. Because is it really hurt? Is $10 really going to hurt? Every dollar does count, especially when we're in the auction. We know how every dollar counts. But over the course of a season, is that $10 really going to make the difference of someone tanking like a Harry and just going all out and just getting these guys? Now, don't meet the point threshold and just do a total rebuild from scratch while not meeting, I think, for lower grade teams, a somewhat hefty 175.
Yeah,
it does feel like a lot. I mean, I'm not tanking or anything, and it was the first couple of weeks it was tough for me to hit 175. Especially if you're a team that's going to be relying on those really lower priced like prospect type guys, if you're truly a rebuilding team and really going kind of like we'll bring up Harry again, that he's going picks and prospects. I mean, he had big leaguers, he won big leaguers in the auction, but he's going the way he wants to go. So I could be convinced. I think I could easily be convinced that maybe 175 a week is a bit too high, but I think, Cal, you're exactly right in that the $10 cap hit for a team that's rebuilding and going to be relying on cheap guys might not be that much of a disincentive to run out and make trade. Is that going to make Harry trade a first rounder in order to bring in a big bat and maybe score 130 points a week that he'd be lucky to get right now? Probably not. Of course it's not. So I think those are valid points both. What do you think, Tyler, as a fellow EC man?
Yeah, so I feel like this is public enough already, if not by myself, but by other members of the EC, but we all agree that this is not the perfect rule. It helps, I think. It's in the right direction, but it is not what we want it to be. And I think it's really interesting hearing both of you kind of talk about the point thing at first, because I feel like in my head, I always thought, if anything, it was too low. But that's also coming from someone who doesn't have issue scoring 175 points in a week, right?
Right.
So I'm less concerned with the points. Like, whatever we set the points at is whatever we set the points at. I don't truly care. I think the biggest concern is we want this to be as much like the MLB as possible, right? In a sense. So we just want all 30 teams to at least field a roster every week, right? Like, that's the point. Like, have starting players in your starting spots, right? Outside of that, if you have guys who, get DFA'd and get called up every other week or whatever, or you're relying on minors guys, then that is what it is, right? Like, that's just, you're a bad team and you're kind of having to pay for it. But yeah, I think we need to change the incentive in terms of how much you are going to have to pay if you intentionally do not have this roster, because we need to set it at a point. And again, my opinion, this is not EC opinion, disclaimer, this is just my opinion. We need to set it at something where, like, if you're going to go the route that Harry is going this year at any point in the future in any seasons, you're going to be basically paying way more than it's worth to do it.
Right.
And so I think that's the biggest focus that we need. The point thing is more irrelevant to me. It's more of the cost. And then maybe having something around like, and I think we kind of already do, but just making sure that guys are fielding lineups, that we're not having, injured players in starting spots, that kind of stuff. I think that's the biggest thing we need to get away from.
Yeah,
because I don't have a problem with what Harry is doing. I just
agree.
It was
100%.
it was like the winning guys in the auction and then instantly putting them on the block. That was the, like you said, field a team, field a team, field guys that can go out there and play ball.
Well, this is Alan. This is the biggest. I think the biggest clarifier about that, because Harry obviously took a lot of flack for it. The biggest thing, the caveat for this is if he would have traded for other MLB players to field his roster and make it competitive, no one would have had an issue with it, right? So to me, it's not that he drafted those guys and traded them. He could do that. It's just how and who he traded them for, right? He went from having a roster to not having a roster, and that in turn then complicates the league. It hurts the competitive integrity of the league, and that is something we want to get away from. And so, I 100% agree with you. I have zero issue with what Harry did. It's just if he needs to be able to field a roster too. Yeah, you're good, man. So Cal, I think you're kind of shaking your head. I feel like you agree at least a little bit with that.
Oh, definitely.
Competitive integrity than anything.
Trust me, I did not want to field a roster last year. Like, it was not the easiest thing to do. To like, all right, I got to go get another reliever, I guess. I mean, you had to, and that was back. That's when we had. I guess it was unlimited IL spots. That changes things a bit. But I felt like there was less depth out on the wire as far as just like being able to get a body. Yeah. So no, but I totally get that it's a very tricky line to be like, how do we incentivize not even just winning, but just not sucking? Yeah. Like how do we do that? Because at a certain point, right? Let's say we do make it harder on like you said, just like make it not even worth it to do it. When does that turnaround happen where they want to get, like they wouldn't be able to afford me going out and getting, Jordan and DeGrom and Mookie. Like if I had done that strategy and it failed, I can't then turn my team around with those prospects I acquired and use the budget that has now been slashed to turn my team around. So I get the spirit of the rule, and I think maybe over time it'll work, especially when it's fine tuned a little more and we have more data to go off of. But right now, it's not at its strongest form, I would say. I think we've got a good base to work off of.
Well, I think we want to make sure too. Like one of the best parts of this league is our minor league system, right? Yeah. Like how much knowledge. At least I know I can speak for me personally, like how much knowledge I have gained just from being in this league.
Oh my God,
about guys that I never would have known about. Mm-hmm. So for me, I think it's much more about that than anything. That we still want to keep that spirit. We want the teams that are struggling to dump, right, and do that kind of stuff, because that makes the league exciting. It makes people want to be engaged and involved, and that's in real life. That's what happens too, right? Teams dump good players to try and refill up on prospects, but those teams still run out players every single day, right? And still play games every single day. So that's where we got to fine tune it. And once we do, then it's perfect.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so that's strayed well away from believe it or not, but very, very good discussion either way. To say that the threshold is too high, I can believe it, and I also cannot believe it. So it doesn't help anybody, but good discussion either way. So believe it or not, Tyler, you can start this one. The NL East is a 4-team race. Believe it or not.
I mean, well, yeah, I think it's a pretty easy question to answer. I know Tony has already said he dumped, right? Like he's not going to be in contention this year. So yeah, but I think the Mets, Braves, Nationals, and Phillies all have very viable teams. So far, I think what's interesting about it is we're not seeing the quote unquote NL beast we're maybe being hyped up in Discord to believe. But again, I also look at that and have a caveat on it and saying that I have the Nationals top 5 in power rankings right now, right? So like they're potentially underperforming or they're playing really hard competition. if you look at the division, they haven't played anyone in their quote unquote weak division yet. So, they could have some positive regression coming their way. I believe in Braves Jake as well. I mean, we've seen what he can do when he starts to make trades and turn things around. Adam obviously has made the playoffs every year. And then obviously new owner for the Mets who's come in, has done some awesome stuff this year. And he's super active in both ABL and ABL4. So I'm sure he'll be in contention too and looking for names. One thing I will say that I think will be interesting about this race specifically, I haven't looked at all the other divisions, but this one specifically is I think the team that makes the biggest moves will be the one to finish at the top. So not necessarily makes the most trades, but the one that makes the biggest moves will be who finishes at the top.
Just for fun, I will say I don't believe it. Mainly because I do see there is a sizable gap between the Mets and I would say even the Phillies as far as scoring. The fact that he's probably closer to Tony. I mean, it's chartable, but he's closer to Tony than he is to the next highest guy up in the standings there for points. So over the course of a season, I think the Mets might falter out. I guess I have to check their IL and see if maybe they have some I'm missing there. But it's very rare you have a division with 4 teams that can really compete and try to vie for that first spot. And I'd say if I had to pick 3 that are going to go like all the way with it, that I feel confident in, it would be Phillies, Nationals, and Braves. Like I would feel good about betting on them, any one of them. Mets, I would not feel good betting on.
All right, so 1-1 there, not bad. In the same vein, sticking with the NL, is, believe it or not, the NL West is the NL best. Believe it or not, is the West now. Has the West taken like enough of a step forward to like supplant the Central as the most feared division in the National League? Cal started off.
I'd say yes, just because I had to take a look here because I believe the record shows otherwise. But because who'd be number 3 spot? It'd be Frank's Cubs. See, because if you compare the number 3, and I'll even go off of Tyler's power rankings, it's because you have to look at the discrepancy between who would be the lowest on the power rankings. There is a sizable gap between the 3rd highest ranked team in the NL West versus the NL Central. So I kind of have to give a slight edge to the West on that one. And over the course, I think they'll get stronger.
In the Central is much better than the 4th team in the West.
Good point. And I guess
like exactly 500 points better.
But can you argue that maybe the anchor in the NL Central might be worse or stronger than the anchor in the NL West? And that's a personal question, I know. But do you like where does that level off at? I don't know, because I do agree with you that yes, the 4th team there is a drop off, but those top 3 are so elite. I could see any one of them winning it all and usurping Duke as a champion. Yeah. And I cannot say that about the NL Central. I don't see the Cardinals or Cubs making, or Brewers for that matter, a deep postseason run, and toppling and being the new champion. I could see any one of those 3 teams in the West doing that.
Yeah, I think I would probably agree. I think it depends on what your definition of best is. If you're going based off of just records, right, and points, I think it's the NL West, and I think it's a no-brainer. If you're asking me which division I was going to bet on to win the whole thing this year, now I might have to change my answer simply because Duke is essential, right? That's good. So it's like I'm not 100%, and not to mention like Jeff's a great owner. Well, everyone's a great owner here, but like Jeff easily can make trades and make his team even more competitive than it already is. We know Frank's going to make moves because Frank always makes moves and will make his team's going to look completely different. So we don't even know where he's going to be. And then Zach, we already talked about how he has gotten kind of the rough end of some games this year. So he is due for some positive regression as well. So I could very easily see you look 3 weeks from now, I could very easily see these 2 divisions kind of evening out in a sense. The NL West maybe will always have those 3 teams in the top 5, top 7, whatever it might be. But at the end of the day, I mean, you still got Duke in the Central, so it's hard to say that it's 100% clean.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if I had to pick, I'd say the West.
I do believe it. I believe that the West is best. Maybe personal bias, of course, but the basements of both divisions, I just put up almost 298.5 points on a one start week from Molly, on a one start week from Joe Musgrove, where he wasn't very good. My bats came alive for like really the first time, and I think I was number 4 in hitting overall. So we've seen the Padres put up 300 plus already this year in a regular scoring week. So that's not to say that we know the Brewers can do that. We haven't seen the Reds do that yet, but Lenny did just trade for like 3 or 4 starting pitchers.
Yep.
Not, great ones by any means, but guys that are going to throw innings and get points. So Tyler Anderson.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah,
get them while they're breathing.
We've seen Tyler Anderson's first game this year was 20.5 points. So we have seen him do it, and we saw him do it most of last year. We've seen Dean Kramer. He threw it. He was one of the few guys to throw a shutout last year, and he's already had a very good game this year. And you
don't even need that. You don't even need that too, right? Like,
not at all.
You don't even need the 20. You need the 12, the 14.
Yeah,
right? Like
the consistent.
Over the course of a week,
just
that freaking adds up, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think the Reds are about to take an in-season step forward. Like Lenny and I are nearly tied in points, and if I can get healthy, Musgrove comes back and I'm not getting Ashby back, I'm not getting Lux back, but say Meadows comes back and maybe puts up 2.5, 2.75 points a game, at least gives me something. And Musgrove comes back and is Musgrove. I think the bottoms of both of these divisions are about to get better, and it is tough. I do think with the emergence of the D-backs, I do think that the top 3 in the West run pretty well with the top 3 in the Central. Good points made by both you guys. The Cubs are going to look very different probably a month from now than they look now, but are looking very strong. But yeah, I would say believe it that NL West is NL best. And personal bias aside, I probably still believe it. Just looking at 3 8-1 teams, it would be really tough to disagree. But we know what those guys in the Central do, so it really is tough to bet against them. What else do I have here? Okay, so let's get on the believe it or not, every team in the league will win at least one game. What do we think, Tyler?
Oh, this one's hard. I am going to say that I do not believe it.
Oh man, I agree with it. I agree. That's fine.
Because I think prior to this week, I probably would have said everyone but Harry. I do not think Harry wins a game this year. I just don't. Nope. I don't. Scoring. Not even 100 points. I mean, it's just not. Even if he plays Sam and Tony, like they're still gonna score at least 100. So I don't think he's gonna win a game. I think Sam will win a game for sure. There's no way he goes the whole year, and he'll make a trade just to win like the last week of the year to make sure that he doesn't. That would not shock me. But now with Tony kind of dumping though too, I don't know if I guess it kind of depends on the pieces he moves. I'm thinking that as long as he makes kind of the trades that he's making, like he made with UCal today, mm-hmm. I think he'll pick up maybe a couple of wins moving here and there. I just thought Tony just said too that Harry actually outscored him this week, which is interesting. I didn't know that. I didn't look at the bottom of it.
Yeah, I don't know if that's
scary if you're a Marlins fan.
That's what I'm just gonna say though. I don't know who that's good for though. So maybe more to my point that both of them will not win a game this year.
So disprove your theory or prove it. It's hard to say.
And I think the interesting part about it is because Tony's potentially selling off pieces when him and Harry do play each other, someone's obviously going to win. It could just come to a coin flip type of thing. I'm going to say Harry's still going to lose because he's just not going to be able to score like that on a consistent basis. But I say I do not believe it.
Yeah,
Tony's going to get Duvall back. He'll get that big bat back.
Yeah, that's true. And he'll definitely be April Adam Duvall. Don't worry about it.
Always.
Nothing will change.
Always.
But yeah, like I pretty much agree with every single one of Tyler's points there. Like he's dead on. Like especially exactly what I was thinking with Sam. Like Sam, I just don't see him being this bad for this long and accepting it. And also, I can't afford to have him that as that bad because I have a pizza bet going with the West. So I need at least something from him. I need to pick up the slack because I don't want to be paying Brendan out pizzas. So I need some help. It's a cry for help, Sam. Get together.
He will. Sam will.
Oh,
I
know.
I mean, it's
will.
pretty clear what he's doing. Like Sam knows what he's doing. Sam has made some goofy deals, in the first couple of years. Sometimes I think he, and it goes for a lot of guys, and it's like get bit by that trade bug where the action is all. Sam will be on Discord at 2 a.m. Who's up? I'm looking to trade. Let's do it. And he'll make a trade just because you happen to be awake and there at the crazy time. He'll make a trade, no matter what it is. But it's pretty clear what his path is now. He's not on that. He's not on the full dump, yet. I don't think, but he's obviously gearing up. He's gearing up and he's getting the pieces he like. You think that maybe Sam's a torque guy, but then he's gone a few days later. Like he was a torque guy in what torque could bring back for him.
Right.
Like Sam is a buy for $1, sell for $2. Whenever he can, and
that's the art of the dump though too, right? Like that's. I feel like that's something that a lot of teams maybe don't think about when dumping is like you don't need to go 100% in on prospects and 100% in on picks, right? Like you can move for some MLB guys and move those MLB guys for a lesser MLB guy and a decent prospect. And so Sam is really good at, like you said, selling $1 for $2 type of thing. Yeah. To a lot of different people. So yeah, he's done a good job with that so far.
Yeah, Sam, I think I made this reference before, but Sam is like Dwight in The Office when he takes a paperclip and he ends up trading with everyone until he gets up to a telescope, and then he trades it for magic beans that don't work. So that's that's exactly what it reminds me of. But
that's going to be the best reference ever on this pod.
But
it doesn't quite get to that Ferrari.
Yeah, not there. But like, I totally see him just dumping and getting better, and then hauling off and getting 6 or 7 wins throughout the year. So like he'll dump like in late May because he's just sick of it, and then he'll make his team better. So that's what I'm hoping for. But I do see it. I do really do see that happening.
Sam is one of the few like teams and owners that I could see do like if it was early enough, like almost like an in-season complete turnaround. Like he could acquire a bunch of picks and prospects, and then like within the same 2-week span have traded all of those for viable big leaguers and then go on a run in that same season. Like Sam is one of those guys that I could easily see doing that, which would be great for the pizza bet. I don't know if that's his plan, but I think we could all see it. So I'm with you guys. I do not believe that every team will win one game, and it's for all that you say. I can't really add anything at all to that. I had thought in my head, well, those guys, Tony and like the Marlins and the White Sox, they're all going to play each other. So, but that just still doesn't mean that they're all going to end up with a win. So,
yeah, right.
Yeah,
exactly.
I kind of don't believe that I think Harry has got himself in a point where, yes, he has the most like incredible farm system that this league has ever seen right now. But, we all see what is in store for the White Sox during this season. So, and I think it's a goose egg in the win column.
Yep.
What else? How about the one more here? Believe it or not, 4 or more teams will make the playoffs this year that did not make the playoffs last year. Now, I don't know if that's easy to do without like having it up, but if we can just kind of riff on that a little bit, 4 or more new playoff teams from this year from last year.
I'm gonna cut a promo here and say yes. because I really only need 3 teams because I'm definitely going to make it. So yes. So the odds are way better in my favor. So I'll take a believe it.
I'm pulling up I'm going to try to attempt to pull up the standings from last year just to see who made the playoffs. See if I can get there. While I'm pulling them up, I guess I would agree. I think yes, more teams will make it. Of course, when you go to playoffs, it's showing even teams that weren't in the.
Well, who looks good this? So like right now, put the Angels in there. The Astros were not a playoff team last year, right? They're sitting on top of their division.
Okay. Kansas City.
Were the Royals? Yeah, were the Royals a playoff team last year? They were.
I don't think they were. At least that
I remember who loses early, or I forget who loses early. Like that's kind of my thing. Is when I obviously didn't make it, I wasn't as geared up for the playoffs as guys that were in it. So yeah, those 3 for sure. Tony says, and then we're looking at potentially the Jays, the Nats. Did the Braves make it last year? I don't. Did they kick hard to the finish?
Jake was in it. Yeah, he had a good team last year.
Did the D-backs go last year?
They were in it last year. I'm pretty sure. I think they were. I don't know if was Zach in it, Brewers.
Man, I'm terrible at this. I do the podcast and stuff, but this stuff just it leaks out of my brain once we're done talking about it. Yes, the Braves won the division. Okay, yeah. So we had Braves and
there's playoffs.
The West didn't have 3 teams last year, did they? Did the West and the Giants, the D-backs, and the Dodgers?
Maybe did they? Did they make? Maybe they didn't.
None of us can remember this.
Well, I have the playoffs pulled up. At least round 1 pulled up. And,
okay.
I guess you can just list off a team, and I can tell you who.
So the D-backs.
Did the
D-backs?
D-backs,
yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Correct.
Okay. Did the Giants?
Giants? Yes.
Yeah.
And the Dodgers definitely. So the West did have 3 playoff teams.
Yeah. What about the Baltimore?
Baltimore? Yes.
Okay. Toronto didn't, right?
What the heck?
Are you looking at Fantrax?
Yeah, I'm looking at Fantrax playoffs. Is that incorrect?
It has too many teams.
Okay, because I'm looking like how many freaking people made the playoffs?
Yeah,
it's just a long.
It's like everybody made the playoffs.
It's consolation mixed with the actual playoffs.
Because all I did was look for me not being there. I'm like, okay, this is accurate, perfect.
Yeah,
as long as I'm not there, we're good.
I don't know why. I don't know what the issue with that is, but So I would say believe it because I don't think Baltimore made it. And you might have been right on. The D-backs may not have made it, which those 2 are essentially locks. The Royals are another lock, so that's 3 right there. Right, like I think those 3 are for sure making it.
Yeah, and throw the Angels in. We got
that's what I was going to say. I feel like
Yeah.
Cal's going to make it. I think, and then between really like Toronto, who I don't think made it, Houston, who we said we don't think made it. Zach, we had the Brewers, the Nationals. Like, there's a lot of.
Don't count out the Tigers. Don't count out those Tigers right there. Look at the point. He's not that far behind the Clevelands and the Twins.
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure Mark just got hit with another injury. I don't remember who it was, but
that'll be
I think Mark just got hit again. Yeah. Don't count out the Tigers. Tony said the Orioles did make it. And I feel like they probably, but still, I think we're all kind of firmly in that believe it that 4 or more teams that did not make the playoffs last year will be in this year, which says, I think what we've been saying about the league and that it's becoming stronger overall, maybe a little bit more unpredictable, like in the strength and parity, like you just don't know what it's going to look like from one week to the next. But I think that speaks very well for the league as a whole. And it's exciting, it's nice. It's nice to see. It's nice to see a new team at the top of the power, even though it's only week 3. It's nice to see a new team up there. It's nice to be talking about, these guys potentially making playoffs. I like it. Yeah, Astros and Angels did not. We knew that already. So yeah, I'm definitely a believe it that we will see a good handful of new teams in the playoffs this year. I'd like to see some teams back in the playoffs, that maybe made year 1 and didn't make it last year. Maybe like the Rockies. I don't think I'm playoff bound, but hey, crazier things have happened.
Make a run for it.
Yeah,
Make a run.
absolutely. The bats go good. I get 2 start weeks out of Molly and Musgrove and Matt Boyd. Oh man, I still haven't checked that game yet. That Colin Ray Matt Boyd game.
Hey, well, I'll look right now. Hold on.
What's the score? Yeah, just tell me the score.
So, because I have Ray pitching in ABL 4. It is currently Detroit 4, Milwaukee 2.
Hey, look, that's probably, unless one of them got hurt or something and left out, that's probably about the best I could hope for, honestly.
In line for a win, probably.
Yeah, I'll take it. Obviously they're not both going to get the win, but neither one of them got crushed. Yeah, I can be very satisfied with that. I got a couple more, but I'm going to save them for next time because we're already at an hour here. So, You guys got any last words?
Well, Tony had mentioned that the Cubs did not make it last year, and I think I agree with Tony saying that the Cubs could be a decent pick with the Central being not as top heavy as it has been. So that'd be an interesting one, and I could definitely see that happening.
Yeah, I like that. I think my parting take is I just love just how things are shaking out this year with divisions being completely different outside of, as I said before, the NL Beast not being existent. I think it's just awesome to see all the divisions changing stuff up. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Brendan one more time. Hopefully he listens till the end. But him and I, if we could show our DMs to the public, I think everyone would get a good laugh out of it. But I just hope that that the changing of the standings and all this kind of stuff just continues to develop more of these relationships, because Brendan probably will never say this to me, but I respect him a lot in the league. And I love that him and I have the banner back and forth that we do, and Mark too, and he throws in his stuff. So I hope it just continues to build those relationships, because I think it's just really a cool thing to be a part of.
You don't just get that Brendan respect. He doesn't just give that out. You have to earn that stuff. Yeah.
I don't even know if you can earn it, to be honest with you, but
if you show the DMs, I have to mark this video not for kids. So,
yes, very much so.
All right, guys. Well, I appreciate you taking an hour out of your night to talk some ABL, and that has been week 3 this week in Armchair Baseball, and we'll see you again soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Alan.
Yep.
Thank you, guys.
Peace.